Hi everybody, it's Kathy here with two recommendations for those who enjoy grit and crime. You all probably know how much I love crime books, anything to do with the mafia, and other gritty stories. So let's get started. Okay, first up is Dodgers by Bill Beverly, which releases on April the 5th, I believe. I received this book through the Penguin First to Read program because something about the description just really intrigued me, and I really wanted to read this book. Now, Dodgers is a wonderfully written story of a young 13-year-old gang member named East, who is sent from LA by his uncle along with three other teenage boys, including his very volatile younger brother, Ty, who is only 11 years old. And they are sent to kill a key witness who's hiding out in Wisconsin. Now, East has never traveled outside of LA. All he knows is his little gang community, but his journey comes at just the right time, right on the heels of witnessing a young girl fatally caught in the crossfire of a gang war. East is kind of a lookout for his uncle's crack house and has a few other young ones under him in the hierarchy. Now, when his underlings fail to let him know that something major is about to go down, the house is suddenly under attack, and the little girl is caught in the crossfire. She gets shot. This really affected East, and he tends to see the face of this little dead girl everywhere he looks. Every time he sees another girl in passing, he envisions this little girl lying there staring at him with her dead eyes. Now, when East and the other boys start off on their trip as newly promoted hitmen, anything that could possibly go wrong does go wrong. They argue, they fight, they're typical teenagers. They have trouble getting the guns to do the hit, and so on. There's actually a kind of sweetness about East, but he's still a gang member that should be feared. He doesn't seem to really know his place in life, or what he wants to do, really, as any 13-year-old boy, wouldn't know either. He's just kind of thrown into the gang life because of where he lives and his uncle being at the top of the hierarchy. He doesn't have a father, so he takes care of his mother, and he really loves his mother. Unlike Ty, his little brother, who never comes home, no one ever really knows where he goes or where he stays. So with all that East struggles through at home, he's very street smart, and the allure of the money that gang life gives him is pretty strong, which is pretty indicative of a lot of our young people who are involved in gangs today. The family life is not so great. The lure of the money is pretty attractive, and they have someone who seemingly cares about them, so they join the gang, and this was kind of the way East was. He was kind of thrust into it. While the start of the story is gripping, it tends to dip a little bit before picking back up about midway through, when it takes a beautiful turn into more of a coming-of-age story, I guess. East doesn't really know which direction he wants his life to go, but he learns a lot about himself on this trip and about others who are outside of his gang family. He gets to see what's beyond the boxes of LA, which is where he lives. And I don't really want to go any farther into his trip because we're entering into spoiler territory here. Now, East's character really intrigued me. The intensity of how some of the scenes, along with a little humor in the circumstances, it really kept me invested in the story. This is a good coming-of-age story that's gritty, but it's violent, but it still has a sweetness to it. There's a charm to East, and there's a charm to the story, and to a couple of other characters. This is one that I recommend to those who enjoy crime, who enjoy coming-of-age stories. I think this is one you should add to your shelf. Next up is Shaker by Scott Frank, and Shaker features Roy Cooper. He's a hired hitman from New York who arrives in LA just after a powerful earthquake has hit, and the total city is in chaos. All of LA is in turmoil. Now, even though the city is suffering through this earthquake, Roy still gets his job done and takes out the man that he was hired to kill. The problem is that he gets lost in North Hollywood on the way back to his car. And as he's searching for his car, he happens upon four gang members who are mugging a jogger, and the jogger turns out to be a very controversial mayoral candidate who is murdered in the scuffle. Roy ends up in the middle of the scuffle and gets shot. He's hospitalized in critical condition, and he's mistaken as a hero because someone videotaped the incident, and the video goes viral. All of a sudden, Roy is the next YouTube sensation. The story splits into several different subplots, one of which features Kelly McGuire, who is an LAPD detective with a few anger management problems. She's also painted as a racist after she makes some drunk comments. So she's pulled back off of suspension from her drunk comments to investigate Roy. and to try and find him. Now, in the meantime, there's another subplot involving the gang members who beat up and killed the candidate. Science is the teen gang member who is a sociopath, a gangbanger, a shooter, and he wants to keep Roy quiet about what he saw on the night of the death. Then there's Albert in another subplot, or Albert Boudin as he goes by, and he is Roy's former cellmate and mentor. He's a pretty creepy character. Now, the author of Shaker is also the author of the movie Get Shorty, or the screenwriter of Get Shorty. And this book is pretty much a Get Roy story because everyone is out to find the hitman for different reasons. Everybody wants to find and figure out who is Roy Cooper. The story alternates between Roy's past and his present, and his past really being a very touching story in a lot of ways. It answers a lot of questions. It tells a lot of how and why Roy became who he became as an adult. His family, particularly his father, and the relationship, or non-relationship, I should say, that he's had with his family, and just how he became to do the work that he does. It's really quite sad in a lot of ways, and Roy has a quiet charm about him, more charm than scariness, I think, which the quiet scariness is more descriptive of a couple of other characters, namely Albert and Truck. Truck is a very scary character. Truck is one of Science's gang buddies. Yeah, I wouldn't want to run into him on a dark alley anytime, any place. Yeah, not at all. While the book is said to be filled with humor, I wouldn't go so far as to say that it's humorous as much as it's thriller with a dark humor about the circumstances, although Kelly McGuire, the detective, has several funny scenes. She's pretty funny. I would put this one more in the type of dark humor in line with Pulp Fiction, the movie, which is one of my favorite movies, Quentin Tarantino, his type of humor. But this book should not be compared with Pulp Fiction at all in any way because they are apples and oranges. Okay, it's just that type of humor. It is one that I recommend for the crime thriller piece. The writing is pretty solid for a debut novel. I would say stock it on your shelves or at least get it from the library like I did. It's one that it's a pretty good read. It's also got a moving and touching piece to it that I think readers would enjoy. 2 books, 2 hitmen, 2 gangs, 2 exciting crime thrillers, both set in LA. Both with a bit of humor in the circumstances, and both with a kind of melancholy charm about them in places, both with characters who are charming, yet scary. Hitmen. Dodgers and Shakers, I'd say add it to your TBR list if you're a fan of intense crime thrillers, suspense, but still want that little bit of charm in the mix, maybe a little humor on the side. Okay, that's it for now. Leave a comment below to let me know if you like these types of books and if you've read them or are interested in reading them. Until next time, happy reading.